joining me now to discuss whether or not the Biden administration will finish the Gaza deal before Trump takes office on January the 20th is the editor-in-chief of the Foreign Desk, our friend Lisa Daftari. Thanks for coming back on the program. So do you think Biden can get this done?
Unfortunately not. The reason I say that is because deterrence, like we saw right now, starts at the podium. It should have started 4 years ago with the Biden administration. It should have happened on October 7th, if not October 8th, where our enemies, where terror organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Islamic Republic, who is funding all of this, would have heard the Biden administration loud and clear. But that is not what happened. You cannot establish deterrence now, 13 days before they're out of office. What Donald Trump is doing perhaps might create a Reagan moment where on or around the 24 hours that he is, on inauguration day, we see some sort of turnaround. We see some sort of quick response, because as we are seeing with the UAE deal today that was announced, what we're seeing based on a lot of our enemies, even China is communicating with Donald Trump via various surrogates. Our enemies are taking a step back. Our friends are taking a step forward. The deterrence that he is establishing is already being felt around the world. And the way that he is speaking will establish more deterrence. So now with the Biden administration scrambling to say, we now demand a deal, they're not going to be taken seriously. Now, again, it might be closer to the inauguration. It might be for Donald Trump's deterrence. But what the Biden administration has done, if you have watched any of the press briefings that revolve around the October 7th reaction by Israel, our ally in the Middle East, it's like a Hamas party. You hear these reporters, journalists that are trained in the United States asking questions of the president, asking questions of Kirby, asking questions of others regarding this war. And it's not a resolute position regarding our ally Israel, regarding our response. And may I remind everyone, there are still American hostages being held by Hamas. Why are they still in captivity more than 1 year after being taken? They are civilians.
Do you think there's an intersection here? I mean, when you look at the nations that signed on to the Abraham Accords, strengthening their foreign investment in the United States, strengthening diplomatic relations with us and Israel, do you think that puts a choke point on Iran and its proxies?
Absolutely. And that is the same line that will continue once President Trump is back in office. And they all know it. Saudi Arabia knows that it will eventually normalize relations. It has said it various times. Now, recall what President Biden did right after coming into office. He estranged our relationship with Saudi Arabia. And we knew that we needed Saudi Arabia to sign on to those accords, whether formally or informally, normalizing relations with Israel, thereby through the United States, thereby being our second ally in the Middle East to help curb the actions of the Islamic Republic. The only message the Islamic Republic has gotten, Iran's regime has gotten over the last 4 years, is that we will loosen sanctions, we will allow them to sell weapons, we will allow them to sell oil. And what happened? They raked in north of $100 billion, and that is the same shopping spree that they went on to fund Hamas and Hezbollah and other terror organizations. And what did the Trump administration do? Love him or hate him, you have to admit what he did in the Middle East was historic, was miraculous. To not only sign the Abraham Accords, which brought together many moderate Arab states, not because they became overnight Zionists, not because they love Israel, but because they love their own future. They love prosperity. They want to keep terrorism out of their borders. Thereby, the Trump administration understood that could bring these two sides together. And more than anything, those moderate Arab states want to stop the Islamic Republic from marching forward. Now we have to go back to that. We cannot fix this in 13 days. The only thing that will fix it is, again, a presidency of deterrence and strength that will start January 20th.
Well, I can't imagine there's a downside to more peace and more trade, right? I mean, if anything, there's probably millions of Iranians who are looking with envy at this relationship. It's almost like Iran will be left behind, right? If Trump forges this path forward, there are other nations that are going to say, we love the idea of economic development and peace more than we love sectarian war. And look, Syria is a mess. That's true. But it seems like Trump is willing to work with those that are willing to work with the West and Israel. And I don't see any downside here
No,
at
and
all.
no, but let me add one hypothetical to your narrative, and that is what we've talked about before, which is the Cyrus Accords. Why not have a better future for the people of Iran who want to make peace with Israel, who want to have peace in the Middle East, who hate their government more than any of us despise the actions of the Islamic Republic? The people of Iran deserve a chance, and many of them who I interview, who I have been talking to, are very much looking forward to a Trump presidency that will go back to a maximum pressure campaign that will give the people of Iran a chance to topple their government, a chance at regime change, a chance at a future, a chance at the Cyrus Accords that will bring them closer to those who are more like-minded in the Middle East. The ideology of the Islamic Republic is to kill, is to terrorize, is to put its money not for the people of Iran, but into terrorism and into terrorism into other places, into Syria and Iraq and Lebanon and Gaza. And the people of Iran know that. They're fed up with it. They deserve better. They want better. And I think this is their chance. And they're looking forward to January 20th, where they can perhaps have a chance at a better future. Getting the Abraham Accords rolling will bring the Iranians one step closer to the Cyrus Accords and one step closer to getting rid of their government once and for all.
We're going to run out of time here, but there are fascinating websites that show life in Iran before the revolution. It was pro-West. It was very European. The people were very educated. They had a thriving economy. I don't know if that will bounce back in 4 years, but in my lifetime, I think I would like to see what the Middle East would look like without the Islamic Republic in pre-79 Iranian society. I got a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. You and me both, and I hope that we could one day have a cup of coffee together in Tehran. Look, I am of Iranian descent. I've heard all the stories that my parents have told me about, living in pre-1979 Iran, and we have gone backwards. And that is exactly why this generation of Iranians want to get their country back, because they've grown up on those stories about what a pre-79 Iran looked like. Look, the entire world will benefit from the Islamic Republic not being at the helm of a country like Iran with such a deep and rich culture, heritage, and history. And that is what we hope for. In the next 4 years, look, we're not going to do it overnight, but we can definitely get started on a better future for the Iranians, for the Middle East, and hopefully for the entire world.
And who knows, maybe, it'll end up with women having civil rights in the vote. Crazier things have happened in the world, Lisa Daftari.
You're absolutely
all right, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.